to the June 16th, 1:30 p.m. City Council meeting. At this time, we'll stand for pledge and prayer by Mayor Pro Tem Loftus. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow. Our blessed Father, we come thanking you again for this day that you have granted us. We thank you for this council that's trying to help our city to be better. And we pray, dear Father, that you will give us the strength and the wisdom to make the right decision here. We also want to thank you for all the employees that work for our city. We ask that you continue to be with them on a daily basis and keep them safe. And also we continue to ask you to walk with us and be with us on a daily basis. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we'll have questions and comments from any citizen that would like to speak. And I see none, so we'll move on to the city manager's monthly report, if you feel like it.
Sure.
Okay.
Got my stuff. If I pass out halfway through, you'll know why. But so far, expenses or financially, we're still trending pretty well. General fund, of course, expenses are still over revenue, which is normal for this time of year, but our expenses are within our budget for this time of year. Keep in mind that we have recently invoiced our industrial district contracts and the BISD SRO contracts, so we get a big chunk of revenue in June. So that should swap in June. Water sewer revenue continues to outpace expenses, which is typical for this time of year. Now that changes in July when we make our big debt payments for the year, but everything's trending pretty close to our budget and our 5-year averages. Sales tax still trending well. Actually, June sales tax was actually up 14%. So we're back up to the positive for the year. So hopefully that continues, but we're still a little bit above average, and our hotel occupancy tax is still trending very positive for the year. So we've just about, our budget for the whole year is $450,000. We're about $390,000 right now with 3 months left to go. So I think we'll surpass that. So that should leave us a pretty good balance in there, especially with the trailer that we've got, the mobile stage that's coming. And of course, that's quite a bit higher. And the venue tax, which is good because we've had some repairs at the Dome that have gone a little over. We had a AC repair and had to get a new water heater already. So been keeping up with that. Although overall financially, we're still doing pretty well. The general fund's going to be close to how we finish, close to our budget. We might be a little over, but it won't be by much. So we're taking precaution to do that, but I still think we're doing pretty well. As far as projects, we don't have too many projects going on right now. We did get the permit back from TCQ on the well 13, which was the re-drill from the well that was sanded in. So that well is back in service now. We have had some maintenance completed on the 2 wells that I believe were down the last time we had this report. So those are back in operation as well too. We are getting ready for the seal coat right now. Our seal coat project is scheduled for June 30th and July 1st. If that holds. So that's most of the remainder of Buena Vista, Fairlanes 2, and that area. Then it also includes Airport Road, Bulldog Boulevard, and St. John's Road, and Opal all the way to Roosevelt. So that should be happening at the end of this month. Once that's complete, then we'll be able to schedule the microsurfacing that's part of the second phase of that project. Microsurfacing will include Lakeview Street, Opal Street, and Main Street from 3rd to 10th. So start seeing a little bit of that. This is a little earlier. We got a different contractor this year with the group's Silcoat project, so we're getting that a little earlier. It's been in September when we've been doing that, but I think the June to July phrase will be good. If they do run a little behind, I expect it probably be delayed after the holiday on the 4th. So I can't imagine those contractors working through the 4th of July holiday, but that's still quite a bit earlier. So we're doing some good things there. In plane development, Stephen Ramirez has started. He's the replacement for Naomi, who recently left to go on, pursue other mutual, wasn't anything bad with her departure. Of course, we hate to lose her, but Steve has started. So if you are over in plane development, you can stay hi to Steve. We also do have our 5 seasonal help hired. If you've been driving around, you've probably been seeing them a lot on the highways. Now that we've had some rain, the weeds, doesn't take much for all those weeds to start coming up, so they're doing a pretty good job trying to keep up with that. Plan Development Code Enforcement also had their Citizens Academy session this last month, so that's good. And Johnny, our code enforcement officer, along with Deidre and Nicole, have been working with BISD about a possible construction program. So what we're trying to do is maybe tie our entity properties in with the high school's construction technology program, where we can turn them over to the properties, they can rehab them and learn all those trade skills, and then we sell the house, put the money that the house sells back into the program for the next year. So we're starting to get some planning on that and think that'll be a pretty good program going forward. In emergency management, they also had their session at the Citizens Academy last month. They've also scheduled in right now at the Dome as ICS 300 and 400. That's advanced ICS is going on at the Dome this week. They've also been rechecking and getting everybody ready for VOCHE and our licenses on that as we get ready kind of in the severe weather storm. So that's pretty good. We also have our Texas Public Information Officer course scheduled for July 14th through 16th. And we've also started initial planning with the National Park Service about the 250th, the fireworks of the lake and the 4th of July, all of that. This is the 250th year, so I guess they're going to be working through a few little different things with that, making sure that we're prepped for that. So, of course, we'll be supporting that like we do most every year since our public safety, we are the EMS agency for that area and have some of the additional resources. We've also been invoicing MPS for their part of the radio dispatching contract now, so that was something that we got negotiated in this last budget year, so get a little more revenue to offset our costs there. Both Pender and Dustin attended the TDM conference, and talk about that later, but Deidre was a presenter down at the TDM conference on emergency communications. The Department of Interior is also getting ready to plan a dam failure exercise, so we've been coordinating with that. We're also working on a VOCHE virtual exercise.
What did you say that was?
A dam failure exercise with the Department of Interior.
Okay.
So what happens if the dam fails? So
Not give a damn, just down.
every time I think of that, I think of National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation and, where's the damn tour? Probably, maybe not appropriate, but it makes me laugh. But with the VOCHE exercise we're planning, so this kind of get everybody used to responding and adding and seeing what that's going on. So when that happens, the council has access to that. So you'll probably see some of those emails coming in. It'll be split out, but mainly to give people a better idea of how VOCHE works and what that is.
Be kind of it'll be kind of false that something happened at the dam and they'll be.
Well, the dam exercise, the Department of Interior is planning,
Oh,
it'll be a
okay, I'm
full
sorry.
exercise.
I
Then
see.
we're planning a hazmat VOCHE exercise just to get people used to using
I
the
see.
resources within a VOCHE.
I get it.
So it'll be in your weekly update so that everybody knows, but when that happens, you might get more emails or more notices from VOCHE, but it'll be separated out by the rooms and the notification groups and stuff, so that'll be just a good way for you to see what information or what notifications you'll get in case of an emergency through VOCHE, so that everybody's kind of
Okay.
has an idea of what to expect for that. We also Jason met last week with the TCQ about temporary debris sites, so we've been working on our debris management plans and all of that stuff. So it turns out we're in pretty good shape with what we're looking at between the transfer station and the service center and even the upper area of the wastewater plant for temporary debris sites. So we're getting all that because what we've learned and what we hear a lot, and even through the Fritz fires, the biggest thing is where do you put all the debris? And so we're trying to get ahead of that so that if we do have something, we've got those sites pre-identified and somewhat pre-approved. TCQ won't permit them until you can put the emergency name and an event in there, but we'll have those forms pre-filled out for each site so that once something happens, we can just send that off and then we can start immediately telling everybody where they need to go. So
Will those sites be fenced off or anything?
well, the transfer, they are already fenced off, which is part of the benefit of those sites that we've picked. Of course, the transfer station's got some extra space. And of course, it benefits if we can use the transfer site because that's also got the transfer station where we can start hauling stuff off. We've already got the metal pile and can already do a pretty good amount of sorting right there, which will help us out. But in case the transfer station is the site that
Right. I just
is
had one of the
impacted.
issues before with the ash and stuff like that, is where we dispose of it.
Ash, the ash, which TCQ did use Deidre's favorite word again. They did. They said that because the sewer site was good for everything but petroskibble. So, which is the ash, and so the ash has some organic runoff issues and things that have to be considered, but the other sites, as long as we do the ground testing, and we've got some concrete pads for some things, and so that's part of that debris plan, and having those sites pre-identified, we'll be able to already kind of pre-identify where things need to be sorted at so that we can meet all of that stuff.
Right, we need to keep our ash in line.
Well, I could say a few things there, but I won't. But and we know that and that's always the big, whether it's fire, whether it's tornado, whether it's hurricane, pretty much any disaster. And I get it, because people want to start cleaning up and want to try to get back to normal as fast as possible. So we need to make sure that we've got all that stuff lined out so we can support those recovery efforts as soon as possible. So they've been doing a lot of planning on that. We're also getting planning an ISTAT refresher course. That's the system that the city employees and state employees and even people can use to report their damage, so that we can log up those queues to try to meet the federal threshold. Keep in mind that just while we're talking about this, I probably will, that federal threshold is based on state population, and so the amount of uninsured loss that you have to have for federal funds to pick in is likely never going to hit for a disaster up here. They pretty common to hit with a hurricane, because a hurricane comes in and takes out, a third of the state. But tornadoes are generally pretty isolated. Even our big fires, the uninsured losses are pretty small. So, it's important to be able to report that disaster for other grant opportunities, a hazardous mitigation grant, but we're probably never going to meet that threshold. And I've seen a lot of debate just with the fires in Amarillo and the 70 homes that were lost. I know there was some public feedback on, why isn't there a disaster declared? I'm not for sure what they think that disaster declaration is going to get them, but that does not open the door to any more funding for uninsured losses if you're below that threshold. It doesn't really help get any more relief efforts to the individual. So I think some of them are focusing on the wrong thing. And just remember that disaster declarations are required to get FEMA funding if you're going to meet that FEMA threshold. But if you're, and I believe something like $90 million in uninsured loss. And so if it's insured, it doesn't count against that threshold. And I think in the end of the day, I can't remember it exactly, but all the fires and everything that happened here, the uninsured losses were less than 10 million. So you would have needed 10 times the amount of loss, and that's with 1 million acres burned. So just kind of be mindful of that as an opportunity to kind of reinforce, what disaster declarations are, to give emergency order, temporary emergency authority to the mayor to, put in curfews and things like that, to bypass procurement procedures if we need to procure something really quick, or to request aid from the state for things that we can't help. But almost all of that is tied to the emergency response, not the recovery. So when you understand that, I think it makes it a little less of a thing. Of course, we've been working through our cybersecurity training, so we did get that done with the council. I know you all enjoyed our exciting video and time spent doing that, but hopefully you're all taking care of that. We do have our two-factor authentication online throughout the city now, so that's everybody's little card. So hopefully we're even more secured for those cyber threats. They are getting ready. IT is going to present a cybersecurity session at the Business Boot Camp that's sponsored by the Chamber of the City and the EDC, so they're getting ready for that. They're also going to help Fritch, as part of our contract with Fritch, is putting in a new IT phone system, so there might be a little additional charge for that, but that seems to be working pretty well. We've been able to serve most of Fritch's needs with just remote access, so we haven't had to build much out of that. But if you remember, they're paying $30,000 a year for our IT team to serve that, so that's been pretty good for both of us and for them. Offsets our costs a little bit and gets them a little quicker response. We're also working with dispatch to test our Everbridge notification for second alarms. That's a way to notify the off-duty fire personnel, depending on how you set up groups. Are currently working through 4 vacancies in dispatch. Again, we're still having a hard time turnover with those same Our average longevity in dispatch hasn't decreased. We're just having, we've talked a lot about that. Dispatch is probably one of the hardest jobs to find. There's only really one way to know if it works out. So we have moved to a new test. They're using some pre-employment testing through Test Genius to try to, get some basic skills tested of those employees. So we're testing everybody before we select for interview, because apparently we're worried that maybe our using work history and resume backgrounds aren't identifying candidates with the best skills, so that by making them take a test, it gives us something else to find out, trying to pick. So we're hoping that maybe that will lead us to a little more successful, but we are working through that. And we had 17 applicants, but only one took the test, which also might be an indication of why the ones we've been hiring haven't been working out. But we are working through some of that. It's, the other ones, the other jobs that are kind of skill critical, firemen, policemen, you have to go through the academy, so you've got that kind of figured out before you hire them. EMS has to be certified. A lot of that has to happen beforehand. So dispatch does have that issue, but we are kind of working through it. The fire department, they did teach we taught our 26 park rec employees first aid and CPR, getting ready for the park rec season. They also had their Citizens Academy session last week. They also did their little annual water play with the kids at all the schools as the last day of school came around. Also started hydrant testing. I will just remind people that when we flush hydrants and, you get a little discoloration in your water, it's just because the massive flow out of the hydrant will knock some of the sediment loose from the sides of the pipe. That sediment's not dangerous. Yeah, it doesn't look the best, but it's not going to kill you. And in most cases, if you just leave the water running for a little bit, it will eventually clear. So it's not unsafe. It definitely looks a little bit. We've got two of our firemen completed basic wildland fire certification, and then Jeff also completed his fire officer one, Jeff Steig, in our EMS department. So parks start spraying weeds on the clover leaf and getting ready for that. We've also started aerating and fertilizing our higher use parks. We are continuing to replace sprinkler heads as apparently some kids think that they're like whack-a-moles and and it's a game, but it's a very expensive game, but we are trying to keep up with that. And of course, they did do a lot of help, and we definitely want to thank the Parks Department for of course, the pivot was setting up for the governor's wife's visit. They set everything up outside, and then we had the last minute tweak after the rainstorm came, and so they had to bring a whole bunch more chairs and set it all up inside. So that was definitely a little extra work that they probably weren't planning on, but we appreciate their help there. Street departments, they've started putting out door hangers for the Silco project, knowing that that's coming up. We have put that out on social media, and we'll continue to try to keep the council and everybody in a loop on that, because remember, ideally, we need everything off the street so that we can get the whole street covered. So starting yesterday, we started getting rock for the Silco project, so that'll be stored here.
Do they have to go door to door to get the cars off the street?
Sometimes, we'll put out the door hangers hopefully to get everything done in advance in the morning of. Sometimes they'll go by door to door, and sometimes we have to call the police department to try to figure out whose car it is and try to get their contact information. But we will try everything. There are sometimes when we do have to go around the random vehicle that didn't get moved, but hopefully we try to avoid that as much as possible. Normally they're pretty good about doing that. So. And of course, the street department also, along with parks, help set up and clean up for the beach bash in our second Saturdays of summer. So a little bit of rain with there, but overall that thing turned out pretty well. So in solid waste, they've also helped the trash with all the different events. Our new trash truck is still hopefully going to be here this month, so we're excited about that. And the service center, we're getting ready. Our first auction is scheduled to end June 23rd right now. The auction amounts up to $38,800. And then we have another little one that's scheduled to end on the 7th of July, and it's already at $15,300. So we're about $54,200 in auction off of video. So that's about 60% of our budget. So considering that most of the bids come in last minute, I think we're tracking pretty well with that. So in animal services, our animal control officers attended a mental health class, a search and rescue class, and the city essential state law webinar. And Jared actually has graduated and has his bachelor's degree now, so congratulations to Jared. In the police department, Recruit Hillier graduated from the police academy and has actually started in his FTO. You probably see him around. Excuse me. We also helped with the Hungate fire at Canyon with the ISTF. Our other two new recruits have started the academy, so they're in the academy. Hopefully they should graduate sometime in August. With those two graduating and on the street, we will be at full staff. Police department also went and helped with Safety Day in Pampa. They are also participating in that initial planning with MPS for July 4th. With the lake levels and the weather being pretty nice, I expect that to probably be I would imagine attendance will be pretty high, so they'll need all of that stuff. We do have some officers at the IS 300, 400 at the Dome this week. Of course, they were here assisting with the governor as well, or governor's wife, excuse me, and they've been around in all of the community events. In finance, they are put the summer intern to work. You might see her when you come in here. She's kind of using the council desk as temporary desk, so if you're in here when there's not a council meeting, a lot of times she's back there. But they're going through and catching up with scanning and some filing for the financial records throughout the year. Did get our industrial district contracts mailed. We've done our monthly fuel review, and we started reviewing our annual accounts receivable. In the city secretary's office, of course, we did complete the election and all the significant secondary final filing, keeping up with all of that, and all the payments processed and coded for all of that. So we did pretty well with that. I think our final election cost ended up being just a little over $10,000. We budgeted $15,000, so we're looking pretty good shape there. Emily and Michelle will be attending the TMCCA conference. That's the municipal court conference here coming up in a few weeks. Of course, in community engagement, we had our second Saturday of summer. First one this Saturday. It was a pretty good turnout considering the little rain interruption in the middle and kind of the unique weather. The rain really wasn't that too big of a problem. I was proud to see that most of the sand that we put down Friday night survived the Friday night rain.
Right.
So there was still some rain in the street for that, but they definitely had a lot of people with there. Of course, we talked about them working with Johnny and the BISD construction program. So they also have started talking with Dwight Rice and Peyton Lumpkin, are looking at possibility of coordinating on a new trade school. So we've heard some of that through some of the EDC meetings and some other spots there, so we're working through that. We're also working on an adopt a spot program being discussed with the high school and getting some of their students involved with that. I think one of the best ways to realize how bad of a problem litter is to actually go ahead and pick up the litter, because you don't really realize how much litter there is until you actually get into the shoulder. Mm-hmm. And so start a little earlier with that and getting people to understand that it's a lot easier. Just keep it in your car till you get home. You probably have a trash can in your garage or right in the back door. It's not that much harder just to do that. We've also started having a little bit of discussions with Dwight Rice. He's interested in possibly transferring some of our entity properties to him in exchange for demolishing the property on it. So that could kind of help us with some of our staffing and equipment issues, getting some of these homes down. So he's got kind of a new nonprofit that they're looking at that. So, we already do that with some individuals that are interested in property. We'll get those property.
Facebook? Or?
No, this would be like they're tax entity property. So every now and then you do a release of property. As long as they tear it down, then we give the property to them. That's what we'd be looking at here. And so that would accelerate some of our demolition on the tax entity property. So that could be a pretty good collaboration there.
That doesn't relate to how many can be torn down in a certain area at a time?
You still have the 660 feet restriction. So we still kind of have to be careful with how that is. And that is kind of the problem is, a lot of time. If we tear down if they're adjacent to each other and we tear them down all at once, we think there's kind of a loophole that can be considered one. So if you got 3 houses right in a row and you do it all at once, that could possibly be one. Now, if you skip a lot, then it's harder to be able to get that exception. But that is kind of the problem, is the worst areas are generally kind of all concentrated, so that does slow some of that stuff down. We do have part of our GIS map now that allows us to put the demolition date, and it creates the buffer, so we can use that map to visually see things, and that has helped some in being able to do that. Our AmeriCorps intern has started with Deidre, so they're working with Deidre and Nicole on that. So that's going well enough, and she's had enough good feedback. They're actually looking at wanting to award a grant for us to support the Youth Advisory Council. So we're excited about that opportunity. We did complete the gateway cleanup, and they turned in 2,100 pounds, so just a little over a ton. Our Centennial book is getting ready to head to the publisher, so we've just got about it finished and ready to go out. So I'll give everybody some copies with that. We'll probably have some to give away, and then we're probably, it's good to make it nice. It's gonna be a little expensive, so we will likely try to sell those for our cost, just to defer some of that. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Deidre spoke at the TM conference, and Whistler City had good feedback and that they want her to come back. Whether or not she wants to go back. And Deidre also taught at the business boot camp for a marketing class. They've got me scheduled next month for workforce development, so we'll see how that goes. Deidre and Main Street, of course, the First Lady's visit came. I think that turned out very successful. She, I think, was very thankful for all the hospitality and everything that happened here. She had a decent visit in Killeen, but they were picketing her husband's, some of his policies in Killeen, so it wasn't maybe quite as relaxing as our was here. She also attended the Main Street meeting, and she has a session on the business boot camp coming up. And then don't forget, our Freedom on Main is June 27th, so that's kind of the weekend before the 4th of July, so that's coming up. We've started coordinating with Mesa Roofing. They're going to come in and do a free roof evaluations on the Main Street roofs, so we can have a total picture of what all the roofs downtown, what condition they're in, and what they're looking at. We've had some of our grants come in for the
good.
for the momentum grant through the tiers. So we're trying to see if we can, depending on how those are, how close they are, what we can package together to maybe save some cost to maximize the use of that grant. With that, the tiers will be scheduling a new meeting for them here probably in the next 30 days to establish a budget adjustment so we can fund some of those. And of course, they'll give us their line item desires for how to do next year's budget. And so then that'll come to the council as well. Also have the WT Enterprise Center going to come in and teach a business retention expansion class. So we're hoping to get a lot of our existing businesses in for that. And we continue to do our outreach to business owners following the local option election. The option election did pass, but they still have to start the process to change their permit. So like the private clubs, if they want the mixed beverage permit instead of the local option permit, they still have to do that. So I've been trying to engage and get them understanding what that looks like. And then they continue to meet with local property owners. So other than that, that's pretty much where we're at and what happened in the last month. If anybody has any questions, I'll answer what I can.
Yeah, I got one. On the emergency trash area, what does the county do? Can't we transfer all that to the county as opposed to taking it to Pampa by the pound?
The county doesn't have a disposal site.
You got a lot of residents.
Right, but they don't have a disposal site. So they would have to set up a disposal site, and then and keep in mind, when I'm talking about our disposal, I'm not talking about a county impacted event. I'm talking about an impact in the city. So like what happened in Fritch and with the Fritch fires, they did have to permit their own temporary disposal site. They handled it and sorted it there, and then they had to pay contractors to haul it off. So you generally have 90 days. You can have an extension for more than 90 days if you need it to haul it off, but the goal is on a temporary disposal site to have it gone within 90 days. And with the Fritch fires, that was one of the big holdups, is they didn't have a site identified, and we're trying to get one permitted while everybody was trying to already clean up their debris. And so since we have a transfer station, one thing that we would have to decide, depending on how much waste it is, do we want to hire a contractor to come in and haul it off quicker? Or do we think we can work through it with our own equipment, our own trucks to save us some money? Because there again, unless we hit the FEMA threshold, that cost is likely going to be on us. Now, if the area was impacted in the county, then we'd have to talk with the county on whether they used our site or what the cost share would be. Does that make sense, or does that answer your question?
It does, but I just think I pay full county taxes just like everybody in the county, so why shouldn't I get county benefits?
And a lot of that just kind of depends on, for us, if it's in the city and we do that, it's going to be cheaper than if the county has to do it because they don't have a site for it. It helps that we have sites already established. But we definitely don't want to create more expense than what absolutely has to.
Yeah, I see the county people bringing their stuff to the city.
And because we have the transfer station, so for most of that, it's easier for us to haul it. And then that's, of course, we do get the $55 a ton to do that. But like right now, even like Stinnett uses our transfer station, they collect the trash, but they drop it off at our transfer station and we haul it off. It's not uncommon for other things like that to happen. They pay the $55 a ton. And some of it, and a lot of it's going to depend what is the type of disaster and how much debris are we talking about.
Well, this, it seems like this came out of all of these pre-planning, out of the planning meeting that all the, so maybe the county is trying to figure.
The county is
something out
working through
as
their
well.
own debris management plan as well. And so it's just, that's been in just about every disaster you have, debris is a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of one of those things
Definitely
that
wasn't
you don't think about. And so like with Fritz, TxDOT came in with their dumpsters and they used that disaster declaration to help haul it off, but you still had to have some place to haul it. And so there are ways to help absorb that cost, but you still have to have some place to put it, and then it's got to eventually find a permanent home. And there are differences depending on what it is, like the metal. We have the metal pile. We have a contract with PRPC. The regional scrap metal contract, that guy comes in, he crushes it every so often, and we get the revenue off of that. So like taking scrap metal would probably be beneficial for us, even regardless of where it comes from. The petroskibble and things that have other limitations with the ash and which is really what they should call it, but there are other things like that happen, but. That's my political answer to your kind of politically charged question.
Yeah, I'm good.
Anyone else have anything? Okay, then we will move on to the consent agendas. If anyone has any questions or comments on that? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda 6 through 9 as written.
Second.
And all in favor? And if they pass. And item 10, consider and take appropriate action on resolution R-021-26, declaring Police Unit 1014 surplus property and authorizing its transfer to South Plains College. Chief Davis.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mayor, Council, how are y'all? So first and foremost, before I get started, I'm happy that one of our new officers that we just hired is actually here with me today. So I'd like to recognize Officer Armentrout back there.
Oh, yeah, that's
She
great.
is, wave at him. So she is our new motor officer, so you'll see her actually on the bike. And fun fact, she's the only female motor officer in the Panhandle from
Really?
Lubbock North.
That's cool.
So kind of a neat thing that she comes to us from Pampa, and we're really happy to have her here. But getting on with what I was going to present, so I was contacted by South Plains College, who we send our recruits to for training down in Levelland, and they were trying to come up with the solution on some of the vehicles that they have for the driving portion at the police academy that we send our recruits to. And we were able to help them out with the vehicle during their last training. And after they saw the vehicle and the condition, they inquired about purchasing it. It is a 2019 Explorer that has come to end of life with us, so it's at the end of the cycle and it's fixing to be replaced with a Tahoe. What would normally happen is obviously it'd be listed on Purple Wave and sold at auction. However, the college showed interest and requested the opportunity to purchase it from us to continue to use in their driving program. It's beneficial for the college. It helps them out to get them another vehicle to be able to use for that. It also helps us because our recruits will use it while they're down there, so I think it's a good situation for us as well. We estimated what the amount that the vehicle would be worth at $7,000, which that's based off of some of the other auction items that we've sold in the past with the Explorers. So that was what I would like us to offer it for sale, or the amount I'd like to offer it to if y'all approve us to do so. I'm happy to entertain any questions that y'all have.
I don't have no problem.
Feel good about it.
Yeah. If there's no questions, then thank you, Chief.
Thank y'all.
We'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution R-021-26, declaring Unit 1014 surplus property and approve the transfer of the vehicle to the South Plain College Law Enforcement Technology.
Second.
And all in favor? And it passes. And then item 11, consider and take appropriate action to adjourn. Have a motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
And all in favor? And it passes. Thank y'all for coming.